The first words of this teaser don't sound like hype. They sound like a eulogy written in advance. We ain't surviving this fucking war. We are dead men walking. That line is the final season's mission statement. Not because the boys has suddenly become noble, but because the world around them has finally become too big to outrun. This isn't a dirty covert operation anymore. This is an endgame where every brutal choice, every compromised win, every life used as collateral is coming due. And what makes this teaser hit harder is the honesty of it. The voice doesn't say, "We might lose." It says, "We're already dead." The only question left is whether they die as broken survivors of a rigged world, or as the people who set fire to the rig itself. Then comes the emotional escalation that gives this final chapter its pulse. I'm going to keep fighting, and if you can't, then I'm just going to fight for both of us. That's not strategy. That's loyalty weaponized into desperation. It's the sound of a team that has been shattered too many times being forced into one last shape, a shape that might finally crack them for good. This teaser isn't selling victory. It's selling the most dangerous season of The Boys yet. A season where the only therapeutic outcome is a clean ending, and the only realistic ending is blood. The phrase, "a reckoning is coming," isn't new in storytelling. But in this world, with this tone, it's not metaphor, it's physics. If earlier seasons were about exposing the sickness of power, this final season looks like the stage where that sickness turns terminal. The language of this teaser suggests we've crossed the line from containment to collapse. The war isn't against a threat. The war is the environment now. The chaos has spread from back alleys and black sites into the cultural bloodstream. You can almost feel a society that has normalized the unthinkable finally hitting the limits of denial. The Boys has always used superhero spectacle as a mirror for propaganda, celebrity worship, and institutional rot. But the final season's tone here feels more stripped, more fatalistic, more end of the road. This is the kind of teaser that implies the world is no longer asking who's right but who's left. And that's the key shift. The stakes aren't just personal survival anymore. The stakes are legacy. If the boys lose, it won't be heartbreaking because they die. It'll be heartbreaking because the world learns to live with monsters in charge and calls it peace. Which is why the next line feels like a knife twist disguised as encouragement. You wouldn't be the first to throw their life away in a war. That's the cynical truth of history. But the teaser doesn't stop there. It adds the dangerous possibility that's always been the show's most addictive fuel. But you would be the first to save the world doing it. That's not just a pep talk. That's foreshadowing. This teaser is dialogue heavy for a reason. It's not trying to introduce new threats. It's trying to lock us into the emotional state of a team that has already endured too much. When the voice says, "So how about it, you lot? One last go?" You can hear the weight beneath the bravado. This isn't a leader rallying soldiers at the start of war. This is someone staring at a pile of emotional wreckage and asking if there's enough spirit left to stand up. The phrase, "one last go," is the kind of storytelling code that usually comes with consequences. It implies a final mission structure, a last plan so risky that no one should say yes, but everyone does, because the alternative is living in a world they no longer recognize. Then the teaser slips in one of its most telling microbeats. "I'll take that as a yes." That line is deceptively casual, but it carries the feeling of people who don't need convincing anymore. Their consent is exhausted. Their hope is thin. Their fear is familiar. The only real choice left is whether they go down fighting or go down quietly. And then we get the most brutal statement of leadership in the teaser. "Even if I have to drag your broken fucking carcasses over the finish line, we are going all the way." That's not comfort. That's command. This hints at the final season's internal conflict, not just the boys versus the system, but the boys versus each other's psychological limits. Because by this point in the series, everyone is carrying invisible injuries, betrayals, guilt, compromised lines they can't uncross. This teaser suggests the final season will weaponize that exhaustion. That's what makes the "save the world" line so chilling. The Boys has never really been about saving the world in the classic heroic sense. It's been about exposing the truth, even if the truth destroys everyone involved. So when the teaser implies someone might actually save the world through sacrifice, it suggests the show is preparing to crown a final act of redemption, and then immediately charge a massive price for it. The final push of the teaser is built on inevitability. The tone isn't, "we might win." It's, "we're committing to the end regardless of what that end costs us, no matter the cost." That's a terrifying line in a show where cost has historically meant everything: innocence, identity, friendships, the line between justice and vengeance. Then the teaser closes the moral trap with, "till the job's fucking done." This is the declaration of a final season that will likely cross ethical thresholds with no apology. Because at a certain scale of war, morality becomes a luxury. The Boys has always explored that uncomfortable truth. The final season may push it into a full collapse of restraint. This also implies something huge about the antagonist energy of the season. The teaser doesn't name names, but the language suggests the threat is not just a single figure, it's the entire machine of power, reputation, fear, and manipulation that has been building season by season. That's why "A Reckoning is Coming" hits like a title card in itself. It implies that all the lies are about to collide at once. And in The Boys, when lies collide with power, the shockwave usually destroys both the guilty and the innocent. That's the show's signature tragedy. The job doesn't get done clean. It gets done violently. So the biggest reveal here isn't a plot detail. It's a promise of structure. The final season will likely be a countdown, a final plan, a last alliance, a betrayal that feels inevitable, and at least one sacrifice that forces the audience to sit in the uncomfortable space between relief and grief. This teaser is short, but it gives us a clear final season blueprint if you read the emotional coding. The war is unavoidable. The team is fractured but marching anyway. The finish line exists, but it's built on bodies. When the voice says "dead men walking," that's not just a vibe. That's a narrative guarantee that this season will not pull punches. The phrase is a flag planted over the story's future graves. The "save the world doing it" line is where the theories get interesting. In a show that loves to complicate heroism, this suggests one of two outcomes. A major character chooses a self-sacrifice that actually changes the world's trajectory. Or the show sets up that possibility only to twist it into a darker truth, that saving the world requires becoming something monstrous for a moment. Either way, the teaser frames redemption as the final currency, not just revenge. The "drag your broken carcasses" line also hints at internal collapse pushing the narrative forward. Expect a final season where someone tries to quit, someone tries to betray, someone tries to do the smart thing and leave alive. And the story forces them back into the meat grinder. Because if this is truly the final season, The Boys will likely do the thing it does best: make the ending feel earned, brutal, and morally complicated. So what's next? Expect the final season to operate like a pressure cooker. The moment the reckoning begins, there won't be time for detours. The story will tighten around the last mission, the last political power play, the last public collapse of the myth. And if the show stays true to its DNA, the most terrifying twist won't be a new villain. It will be the realization that the real enemy has always been the system that made villains profitable. And that system doesn't die easily. Which brings us back to the final emotional truth of the teaser. They aren't fighting because they think they'll live. They're fighting because this time, living without meaning would be worse. And that's why this final season teaser already feels like a farewell letter written in blood.